I'm feeling very bear-like these days. And actually, even toward the end of the summer, I was feeling the same way. Throughout the fall, the bear is just coming up very strongly for me in my life, in my imaginal realm, in my work, in the writing I'm doing, in my books. I'm actually writing some birth scenes right now, which is really interesting. And that's sort of like entering an inner world, of mother and baby, bear and cub, before this sort of expulsion into the world. So, I'm feeling very bear-like, and now we've got snow, and it's cold. The cold is setting in, and there's a lot of time for reflection and introspection, and silence. And there's stuff happening in the silence, of course. It's just that there's less noise and maybe a little more clarity that comes, with the cold, or the spaces in between. So, this whole podcast episode is about the cycles and seasons, and, in our natural world and in our inner world, and how that affects us, and really how it's really useful to us to be able to have a sense of balance, and I suppose like an embracing of these cycles and processes that are natural for us, and I would say necessary. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the flip side. Winter is upon us where I live in the Canadian prairies. We actually didn't have any snow until really late in the season. So it was probably, I don't even know what date, but it was the third week in November before we had any snow. And then we got this big dump and blown in and all that kind of stuff. And I actually think it's quite an adventure. And there's this slowing down that happens at that point of the year. And that's why I love living in a place where the seasons change and it's not always the same. Because we get actually every extreme here. We get the hot, hot, hot summer, like blazing hot. Although our heat is quite dry in comparison to like tropical areas. We get the heat, but it's not wet. And then, but we can get that too. But then all the way to the extreme of like Siberia cold, like Mars cold. Like you're on another planet that's desolate, and you can't believe that anything actually lives in this environment. But they do. And what happens when the environment gets to be to that extreme, or at least even cold enough that you can't, be outside, and doing your thing with lots of chatter of, nature and people and everything moving around, and lots of motion, and outward life, you go in, you hibernate. So a lot of the animals will hibernate, or they'll go elsewhere to keep warm and come back. But the ones that stay, they hibernate. They go into their caves, like the bear, their dens, their warrens, and come out only when necessary, when they need sustenance, something to eat. And some of them don't even eat through this stage. And people go through this as well. And I would suspect, going through this cycle wherever you are. I mean, I think that this is something I do sometimes on a daily basis. I go in, I'm in my internal womb, like in the mornings, let's say, and the lights are dim, and I'm just coming out of that liminal space, the bardo between the sleep and the wake, the dream and the material world. And it's a beautiful place to incubate. Sometimes some people love that time, just before bed, actually, when everything's winding down and things are quieter, and there's time to go in and for introspection, which is a very important part of life. You go out, you have all of these adventures, you have change, you have struggle, strife, beauty, joy. You connect with others in the world that already exists, and then you go in to that cave, that womb-like place, back in there to integrate it, to create something of it, to let that marinate, to swim in its waters, to just be and contemplate. And yeah, and that place is a really warm, beautiful place. We need that place because if we didn't go there into the cave, into the inner world or inner experience, we wouldn't be able to make sense of what everything else is outside of us. And I don't want to say wouldn't, this is where we do that, is where we come in and we make sense of everything out there, and we incubate or germinate or grow something new from that when we come back in. And it's almost like it's the hero's journey as well. You go out into the world and then you come back in, you come back home, expanded and new, and that container's a little bigger, of home, of the womb, of the cave, every time you come back, because you're changed and your inner world is expanded. But it's still, there's a silence in there. It's the pause in between. It's the blessed pause, I call it. Because all of the strength that we gather, the muscles that grow, the synapses that form within our brain, the heart, and the spine getting stronger and more potent and more passionate and richer, deeper. All of that happens in the silence and the pause in between. You can even see that if you're a bodybuilder and you go and you lift all these weights and you exercise, and the muscle doesn't build when you're doing that. It's actually torn down. It's actually pulled apart. There's, with that challenge, and usually if it's, not to the extreme, it's hormetic stress. Like there's a stress put on the body, but it's necessary for the change. And then when you rest in between, in that silence and in the pause, is when the strength builds. And when the muscles repair and they build and they grow and all of that. And not just healing or repairing, but they're stronger. So I was in a class, I'm in this group, and we're having a lot of fun talking about concepts of, well, right now we're talking about the mystic and the magician. And there are so many things that happen throughout the weeks, days in my life. I'm like, how is there so many themes that pop up? And so sometimes in the morning, I make little audio diaries, or I send myself messages like voice to text, or I write things down, or I just verbalize, like this. And one of the things that was really coming up for me throughout the last couple of weeks of discussion in this group, and beyond that, it's like the synchronicities are showing up in the group, and a lot of the things that we're talking about are reflected in things that might have literally I'd been thinking about, or just happening just before the class, or when we get into the class and the discussion. It's like it illuminates some of the things that have been working through my psyche, heart, body, whatever that might be, whatever layer, actually probably all layers. So we were talking last night and about a lot of things, but for me what was coming up was agitation. And then also we were talking about the mystic And, you know, whether or not there's a shadow side to this mystic, and, when the outside world is demanding of you and you feel like you're being shoved out into it and you don't want to go, you want to stay in the cave, there can be an irritation there, and or a resentment even. It's like, I don't want to do this, I want to stay in my cave, why do I need to come out into that world? And so I was thinking about these things, and I actually think that there is no shadow side to the mystic. And the mystic is this, I would call it, we can call it an archetype, like an essence, like yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll stick with the word essence, but a set of traits, I guess. And I don't think that there is a shadow side to it. I actually think that if we are wanting to operate as the mystic, but we're more like the illusionist or the evangelist, like saying, I've got the answer and there's only one answer. That is sort of like the imposter, but not the shadow. The mystic is the true essence of that, the word. So this true knowing, this wise way of being, or this wise possibility in all of us. And so when I feel like there's an agitation, or sorry, an irritation, I'll talk about agitation in a second, but when there's an irritation about that, like, shoving you out of the cave when you're just trying to integrate and be and not have to battle in the world, and all the stuff that can seem to come at you when you're out. And it can be pretty intense, like when you are aware of things that are painful, and when you're aware that they don't need to be such. I mean, maybe, because we learn through pain, but when you know that there is all the possibility to learn through love, and that there's all the possibility to connect if we're not so blind and, warring and disagreeing and, with unkindness and, like, this just the state of the world sometimes, people even just trying to survive financially, they're getting hounded with bills, and, rates are going up, and people can't buy houses, and, or even have homes to live in. And, like, there's so much noise and cacophony and fragmented pieces of data and disconnection between self, others, world around you, that there is this like deep desire, and perhaps I could say need, to come into the cave, just to have a cave at all. A lot of people don't even have that. It's like a baby being born into the world, and it's like, I'm not ready, I'm being shoved out here. I want to go back in. I want to go back in where I can breathe underwater when I'm floating in that, in just floating, without the weight of the world on me, and I can actually hear the sounds of mother. And so the mystic is like that voice, that inner knowing, the wisdom that going into the womb of the cave can allow you to hear. That there's a silence in there that allows for that tuning in, and the just, it's not a denial of the outside world. It's just like, yeah, you can go on out there. I'm trying to hear something right now that is so much more important in here. And when I come back out, I can carry that with me and be able to tune in easier and easier every single time I have to come out, and I can apply that wisdom that I can still hear when I'm out in the noisy world. I have discernment. I have, well, like I said, wisdom. I have the patience and presence to be able to know what is noise and what is music. I can hear the music. So, yeah, so I think that, like, the agitation part of that I was thinking about was when it's time to come out of the cave. So I love being with my peeps and connecting with my kids and my kids' colleagues and all their friends and my other extended family and just people I run into, people I work with, like in my practice and just know in the community. I love that. I love it. And I really need my cave time, but I don't need months and like it's not about that. There are seasons, yes, but there are also this cycle happens, daily, hourly even for me or weekly. I actually I love coming in every Friday because usually that's the time when we have, like we get groceries and I get groceries and I go and hang out at the bookstore where my daughter works and connect with the people there. And I always have, like, there's synchronicities that happen when you come out into the world that you can make something of, or, yeah, make something of. It's not about production and doing, but make something of, create something from, connect something to, when you have a chance to retreat back, when you go home again after your busy day. And all of that stuff integrates and become something new, a new possibility or a new connection that you're deepening and widening with every revolution through that cycle. Deepening, coming in, widening, coming out, deepening, widening. It's like breathing. It's like taking a nice big breath and expanding and then exhaling and letting that all come out. And sometimes at the bottom of the exhale, you just kind of hang out there. I love that. I love the breath hold at the top and I love it at the bottom too. So what am I getting at? I think I said everything I wanted to say. Just that process of the seasons changing and realizing that there are seasons within us in this broader scale of life itself, like the child to the teenager to the adult to the elder, and then passing on, and then the birth again. There's this whole cycle of life that is part of us in many, I guess, many stories, I don't know, throughout the day and throughout the week and throughout the month. Like this is consistently and constantly happening. And to be able to realize that and know when you feel like, when I feel a little bit out of balance, I usually I'll be like, okay, do I need to go in or do I need to go out? And sometimes life forces me to do one or the other. Maybe we get blown in and that's that the world oracle. That's the world, that is the energy saying go in. That's me telling myself. I've created that. Me telling myself, stay home. Or it could be my cat, getting into something like he did yesterday and made a big mess. And I just wasn't sure if I should meditate or like I sometimes, if you just feel like I don't know what to do with myself right now, but something is agitating me to do something. Do I calm the agitation and go within, or do I express it, dance, turn on some music, cook supper? Well, I had to clean up after this cat, and I had no choice but to go out of my cave because the cave isn't just our home, like the physical house we live in. And it's not always just staying home. It's sometimes in within yourself, So am I going to with my body and my being, am I going to sit in meditation or am I going to get up and chop wood, carry water? Sometimes I resist that. I say, well, I'm warm in here. I don't want to think or, do anything. I just want to just be, without all those demands of the mind and the body. But sometimes it's not even a demand, it's just a need to move energy. And so I get up and I'm like, okay, I have to chop wood, carry water. Or if I don't have to, I kind of want to make a reason for myself to do so. And, we can do that on a conscious level. Gonna go shovel the walk, even though it's not that much snow, but I need to get outside. That would really help move energy in me right now. It would enliven me or release whatever is painful right now. Yeah. And so sometimes that is a conscious choice, and sometimes you have to. Like you chose it either way. So when the storm comes and you are out of groceries, you might just have to dig your way out. So that's a fun idea. It's a fun idea. All right. So, what else? I think that's it. I think that is all I wanted to say about that. The inner world, the outer world, the cave, the, I don't know, outside of the cave, the outside, I guess we could call it. And moving into winter, I'm feeling very bear-like and sometimes irritated with the interruptions to that peacefulness you find within. And then also welcoming the times when I really need to come out of there, when it's just too quiet inside. I like a little noise. I like a little bit of music. How about that? Not noise, music. All right, so that's all I have to say about that. And I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for playing. Okay, there was actually something else that I wanted to mention. I don't know how I'm going to splice this in, but I did want to say that those emotions, like the frustration or the agitation, those are not that's not the voice, that's not the mystic for me or the magician. It's actually my human being frustrated or annoyed or agitated with the outside, the external noise that is not allowing me to hear that voice of the mystic or the wisdom of the mystic, the magic of the magician. And it's the noise that's getting in the way. And so that those emotions are the human, right? It's the human, just like, shut up. I'm trying to listen here. For more information about my individual and group sessions, on-demand programs, Coaching the Coaches training, and my Veil's Edge fantasy series of books, please see the show notes for links to my websites, social media, and other stuff. Do consider supporting my work on Patreon. Be sure to follow this show, and follow me at Coach Carla Atherton on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please note that this podcast is not a source for diagnosis, therapy, or treatment, but is the opinion of the host and guests. The intention to support and inspire. Each person's health is their own responsibility. May you, your family, and the people you serve be well. Thank you for playing.